All right. Hi, guys. I am Nicole Dobransky, and I am going to be helping you guys today create social media posts so that people reach out to you. So that is the ideal situation, right? Where we put up a call to action post and people fill out your form, or they comment below, or they take your poll, or they come to you. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And I want to reassure you first that if you're a newer coach and maybe, you've had a few friends and family reach out, and then now you're starting to do those call to action posts and there's not people doing those things, I want to just reassure you that it takes time. It takes consistency, and there's so much more to it than just the actual post itself. But I want to share with you some strategies and tactics and ways that can make those posts more effective. And even if the person doesn't actually reach out to you with that post, you're planting a big seed with it. Because what I often see new coaches do is, or a lot of coaches, maybe not even new ones, is they post this and a social media story or a post, and they say, oh my gosh, I have a $10 off and I'm doing this, my group starts Monday, you should join me. And what ends up happening is no one joins them because they don't know why they would join you. They don't have a good reason to, they don't know what you're doing, and you sound salesy pretty much. So you have to build up, you have to remember that the reason why people join you is because they believe that you have a problem, or they have a problem and you can help them solve it. And this is the problem that you are helping them solve is likely the problems that you had before you joined. Or maybe it's the problems that you still have that you're still overcoming and working on it. So some examples, for example, I'm a runner and I incorporate running into my strength training into my running, and I incorporate these programs into my running. So a problem that my people might have is that they don't know how to incorporate strength training, so they just don't do it at all. Or they hate strength training. They think it's boring because they're going on YouTube and finding YouTube videos. Or they're doing their leg day and their legs are so tired that when they go to do their runs, they feel like the strength training is actually taking away from their running. So I can identify these problems in my social media posts and the way I'm talking, so that they start to think, well, maybe I do need what she has. And so for an example that is more like nutrition focused, for example, you can go into all of the things the struggles you had with nutrition or why you joined. So for example, for me, that is when I was in even in my teens it started, but in my 20s in particular, I was a yo-yo dieter. I was addicted to artificial sweeteners. The diet always started Monday. I felt horrible about myself. I would, do really well from Monday through Thursday, and then I would binge over the weekend. And that's a story and a struggle that I can share with my audience where if they're like, man, me too, right? Then you're saying, but here's what I found is by joining this, this accountability group and going through this nutrition program, it taught me how to overcome those years of yo-yo dieting. And now I can enjoy the foods that I love while also eating healthy, and I can still have pizza. And they're thinking, well, I want to eat healthy and still be able to have pizza or tacos or whatever it is. Like, you can insert your favorite food there. But when you're talking to their struggles and connecting with them on that level, they're way more likely to want to join you than if you throw up a static post that says, I'm hosting a group on Monday, you get money off, like, let's do this. Again, cost is irrelevant when someone truly believes that you can solve their problem. So if you have this limiting belief that $160 is too much to ask for someone to join you, it does not matter how much it costs if they truly think you can help them. You can pay, like, I would pay $1,000 for a challenge pack if I knew that it was going to solve my problem. And $160 is nothing if they think that this is going to work for them. And the reason they don't join you with $160 or they tell you it's too expensive isn't because it's too expensive. It's because they don't believe it's going to work. So your job is to show them through your experience and testimonials of other people why it is going to work for them. Again, consistency is the key to building trust. So we join people who we know, we like, and we trust. So if you're a newer coach, the people who are going to join you at first are the people who already know you, they like you, and they trust you. So that's going to be your warm market, your friends and family, your neighbors, your hairstylist, anyone in your life that you say, hey, I got these amazing results, you should do it too. They don't need quite as much information or convincing to be like, sure, I'll try it and do it with you, because they know, like, and trust you. But if you're just showing up on social media and maybe you were a little afraid to even share on Facebook and you started an Instagram account and now you're posting and trying to build your following, people don't know, like, or trust you yet. So you have to build that trust and you have to tell your story a lot in order for people to come and join you and to fill out your form or to comment below or to take your poll. So if you're newer, don't get discouraged if you're not having people reach out to you. You just haven't built the trust yet and you haven't gotten to know enough people and you haven't talked to enough people yet. Do not give up. You have to be consistent. So you have to just keep thinking of this as planting seeds. How can I tell my story? How can I do it effectively each time I do it? And I'm just going to keep showing up, building relationships. And eventually, I promise you, these people are going to reach out to you. And when you can truly figure out through your conversations, what are my people struggling with? What do they need? And when you're getting curious in your conversations, I encourage you to use your conversations that you do have with people, whether or not they join, to ask them questions about themselves and to figure out what do they struggle with. Because I know when I ask in my challenge group, what do you guys struggle with? After dinner snacking is like one of the number one things. So what can I do with that information? Talk to my audience about how I reduce after dinner snacking, or how in 2B mindset, dinner and done, right? So there's all different ways that you can figure that out, but you always want to start with your story and your struggles, because that's the easiest thing, right? Is what you struggled with, other people struggle with. And if you believe that your struggles are completely unique, just wait until you start sharing them, because you're going to get people saying, me too, me too, me too. So qualities of a call to action post. And I would love, actually, if you guys are on this live, if you want to share in the comments, like, your struggles, like what are the things that you struggled with? And I'm sure you're going to read that and then just relate to other people's struggles, because we all are in this together, right? So qualities of a great call to action post are that your call to action post, I believe, should have one or two of these things. So it either tells a story, helps someone get to know you better, describes a problem you struggled with and how you solved it. It's vulnerable. It has a before and after photo. Not everyone needs a before and after photo, but they should be in there at times. Addresses an objection, or has some kind of testimonial or customer feedback. So you're creating social proof that it's not just you who's getting these results, that other people get them too, right? So it always has this, a clear description of how to get in touch with you. A call to action, or CTA, as you might hear it if you're a newer coach and you're like, I don't know what that means. CTA, or call to action post, it has to be clear. The number one thing I see people doing is doing a vague call to action at the end of their post, where they say something like, if you're on a health journey and you want support, join me. And then people are like, what does that mean? Like, you have to say, I'm looking for 5 women who want to feel stronger, run faster, and be part of a supportive community of runners and moms. See how specific that is? To join me on September 13th for, September 13th or whatever. And then say, send me a direct message or comment below and I'll get you information. I like to say I'll send you some information, because personally, I feel like that leaves people open to, like, oh, I can get information. I don't have to join if I get information. It gives them like an out, versus if you say, if you want to join me, comment below, they're like, well, I don't know if I want to join you, right? Okay, so I have some examples. Let me see what you guys wrote in your struggles. Consistency after dinner snacking. See? Love that. Okay, only 2 of you guys responded, but you can keep them coming if you want. So this is an example. I have 3 different examples in this presentation. So this first one is a coach on my team named Rachel. She does an amazing call to action post. This example has 3 of the things I talked about. So she has a transformation post, a testimonial, and an objection. So she starts, if you notice, first of all, you first immediately notice the transformation, right? It's like a solid transformation. That's proof the products work without someone even need to read the text. And they're way more likely to click on a post that's a transformation as well. So it wasn't the ideal time to start is a great way to start her post, because it's just a short, quick way to get people's attention. And she kind of addresses that. She talks about an objection right away. Like we hear it all the time, right? It's not the right time. I'm not ready yet. It's not the right time. All the time we hear that. Okay, next month. So then she goes into, this is a super original way to go about it. So she basically brought in testimonials from her customers. So she is giving real life examples from people she works with or she's worked with, ways that this has helped them. And they're not all physical, right? It's like my back is sore, or this girl talked about how proud she was that she played in a volleyball scrimmage. So this is more text of the body of her post. But basically, if you look at this testimonial is social proof that they can do it too. Because if we're only sharing our own transformation all the time, then people start to think, well, good for you. Like, right, you did it, but what about other people? And I think testimonials also they give you social proof that you're a good coach. And I want to encourage you, if you're new and you're like, I don't have a lot of testimonials, I personally am totally fine with people going in. If we're like co-hosting a bod group together, if you just go into the bod group and screenshot, make sure you get rid of their like last name, and maybe put like a little image over their photo. But you can screenshot what other people in the group are saying, whether or not they're actually your people. But in order to get testimonials, you have to have people in your group, and then you have to ask them how they're liking it. So just doing a quick check-in and saying like, how are you liking the workouts, or how are you feeling so far? People, you'll be surprised by what they share with you, even if they're not showing up in the group. Because I know we can get discouraged and be like, my group is like crickets and no one's like participating in it. And then we've all had the experienced coaches where you check in with someone, they're like, oh, I lost 30 pounds. And you're like, wait, what? You don't even ever log your workouts. And they're like, yeah, but I'm like, and then you get a chance to also invite them to be a coach. So again, she says several testimonials here, and then she goes into the objection. So financially, it wasn't the best time. Time-wise, it wasn't the best time, as I was busy adjusting to being a mom of 2, under 3 and under. I was living with my parents, so even finding space to get my workouts in took more coordinating than if it had just been in my house. It wasn't the ideal time, but I needed to make a change. So then she talks about like what comes in, basically what it is, high level. And then she did do a call to action, which I don't have on this screen. Okay, so that was an example again of a main feed post that had a testimonial, it had transformation, it had an objection. So I want to give you some examples of stories. So this is an Instagram call to action story series that I did. This is when it's not this is the first thing I want to talk about, is that this isn't fancy. So I will use, what is it called? Unfold on occasion to make very beautiful, like flowing story series. And I actually really like Unfold. It's a free app. They have some paid version, but I use the free one. And it's nice because once you create like a series like this, you can actually just reuse it the next month, and just like maybe slip in a new photo or change the text a little bit because it's already there. Whereas these kind of disappear unless you save them and then remember to go back. But I didn't have time to do an Unfold series. So this is what I did. And this one actually got me a ton of people reaching out. So I did a series of me working out, and I don't remember what else I wrote. This was in June that I did this, when I was in Costa Rica. But I wrote on this picture, it's a video of me working out. And it said, I've always enjoyed fitness, but I wasn't always consistent. I'd go crazy for a while. And then when life got busy, I'd stop. I had poor eating habits, lots of processed healthy diet foods, and restricting, which led to going way overboard and feeling guilty. So I'm talking about the problem that I had for a really long time. And then I found this old picture of me from my freshman year when I gained, this is the beginning. I hadn't even gained the freshman 15 yet, but this was going into college. And when I was treating my hair also treating my hair poorly, but also my body. And then I kind of go through my story. So I'm helping people get to know me. Like, I'm not this perfect Instagram, like person that works out all the time. Like, I haven't always been like that. So that was kind of what I was intending to do in this, was like, this isn't like my life story, me being this fit person. And maybe that is your story, that you always were a fit person. And that's something you would share too, is like, I played collegiate. I have a coach I would just talk to this about. Like, she played collegiate soccer. She's always been an athlete. She's always wanted a community. And that's her story, is I've never needed to lose weight. And I've always been an athlete, but I was not, feeling challenged by going to the gym, and I wasn't getting that sense of community. So telling your story is important. This is my story. that 11 years ago, I did the program P90X. For those that don't know me, I finally stopped dieting. I changed my habits for good, and I show my transformation as like social proof that, or proof, I guess, that yes, I did have an amazing transformation. And then I addressed the objection. No, I didn't starve myself. I finally changed my eating habits. I learned I can fuel my body well, eat plenty of food, and even my favorite treats, and feel and look amazing. And I achieved a 5-minute half marathon PR. So that's something that my audience of runners is going to be like perking up about, not just weight loss, right? But really importantly, it's like no more restricting and binging. And this is something like, if you're sitting here being like, I'm not ready to share something as vulnerable as this. I know I wasn't in the beginning either. I'm a more like private, or I don't know if I'm more private person, but I just, in the beginning, I was like, I would not have been ready to share this. And some new coaches are like all in and they're ready to do it. And other ones are like, I need to baby step into that. But I want to encourage you that when you share the vulnerable parts of your story, you connect with so many more people. You not only you break down the barrier. If anyone is watching you and thinking that you're perfect and that you have this perfect life, you're breaking that barrier down right away. And you're also showing them the way, because I know even when I posted this, like when I did P90X in 2011, I posted that picture on my blog, which I had just created, and my face, I don't think I put the blog on my Facebook. I was so nervous that I literally thought I was going to throw up when I shared it. And I wasn't a coach, but I just was so proud of myself for the transformation that I had, that I shared it. And the feedback and like the amount of support and encouragement that I got from that was so, it just helped me build the belief and the confidence that like most people are relating to the before picture, not the after picture. So we're so afraid to show the before, but so many people are thinking me too when they look at your before photo. So don't be afraid, because you're really helping people through sharing that story. And I honestly find, again, on the note of vulnerability, the more vulnerable you are, the more real you are. And the more real you are, the more people like you and believe you. When you show up in a when you show up in a guarded way, you can come off more inauthentic than when you show up in a vulnerable way. People see your vulnerability, and they see, especially when you get into your storytelling and you're able to tell like details, they believe you, they believe you because they see the details behind it. You know what I mean? When you show up with this generic post, even if it was the same picture here and I shared it like a very generic, like I did a diet, I lost weight, you want to do it too? That's not going to inspire the same level of I want to join you, if at all, as me walking people through a journey that I went on, right? And sharing the details and showing with proof. Okay. So this is again, this is continuing that same story series. Sorry, I created this originally in June. But it's kind of funny because when I just went through that whole story series, and I had earlier told you guys the example of my yo-yo dieting, I didn't remember that I even did this story series in here. So it just shows that I know my story very well. You need to know your story and what your pain points were and what your struggles were so that you could just know it over and over again. Okay, so again, I was posting this healthy habit challenge group. So again, the stories leading up to this call to action were all related to healthy habits and creating a new lifestyle. And then we had this healthy habit building challenge that I showed the image. And this is like a shareable image that I shared with my team too, that if they were inviting to it. And I say, if you want to change your habits, it helps to build support, take the poll, and I'll DM you with info. And I did a little GIF and thing. So again, this was not very pretty, but I remember I had like a lot of people, like for me, like I've been doing this a long time. And I had more people than usual fill out my poll and get information. Again, if you're brand new and you do this exact same thing and you're all vulnerable and then you do the poll and no one responds, do not take it personally and think that you're a failure. Know that you did tell your story to someone and that they just need to keep seeing you show up, because when you first start coaching, everyone's looking and thinking, okay, is she going to keep going? Like, is she going to be here in 2 months when I'm still in her group, right? Like, you need to prove to people that you're sticking with this. All right, so again, some tips is to think through it. Would this speak to you? Like you yourself. So don't just, again, copy what I did, make it who are you're talking to. I do like to have this like simple graphic here, the healthy habit building challenge that I can reshare. So say I'm inviting to a challenge group for like 2 weeks. So I do recommend that before your challenge group starts, you're going to want to start talking about what you're going to be inviting to for about 2 weeks. And I don't do it every single day of those 2 weeks, but I am consistently like mentioning it, that it's starting to come up, or I'm going to start like, telling some stories. I'm going to start doing call to action. So it's nice if you have like a graphic that you can just make on like Canva, or that your coach shared with you, or depending on what resources you have for challenge groups. A lot of us have like the mompreneur. We have a Google Drive that has like all these like Instagram stories and whatnot on there. And while yes, those graphics are really nice. I don't know if a lot of Diesel Nation uses Mompreneur too, but I personally find that those graphics are flashy and nice, but they're not telling people why they should join. They're telling people the facts, and the facts are the challenge pack comes with a nutrition plan, and these are your options, and you get meal plans, and you should join us. But it's all facts. It's not telling stories. So if it's nice and convenient to share those graphics, they're not going to have someone clamoring to join you because they're not telling a story. They're not telling a struggle. They're not solving a problem. If there's someone that's just like, okay, I've been wanting to join for a while and now I see what's going to be in the package, yes, then they might join, right? But there's got to be work on the front end for that to work. All right, so one last example of a call to action is a story, and I love stories. I'm very partial to storytelling. My posts are extremely long. Everyone has different opinions on how long like your text should be, but I know if you tell a good story, people will read it. And even if they don't read the whole thing, again, if you have a really good transformation, maybe they don't need to read the whole thing. They can skim it and be like, I want information. So again, this is a great example of someone who has a totally different story than me. So she says, I didn't need to lose weight. And I think that's a great way to start your story, because it's kind of like, oh, she's talking about like weight loss. I don't know. It just like, it catches your attention. So she talks about running cross country and track in high school. And this is a different coach than I was mentioning earlier. But she basically she tells her story and she goes into a little bit of detail here. And sometimes you might be tempted to think like, what does it matter that she found a local studio in Berkeley and that she went to college and she was in corporate America? But again, sharing those details about, if you're really like storytelling something you want to learn about, the book Stories That Stick, I think my team's doing it for their team book club this month, is a great book for you to listen to or read. I always listen, but because it talks about the power of storytelling. But because she mentioned that she went to a local studio in Berkeley, if there's someone reading this who lived in Berkeley or went to school there, they're going to have a connection with her immediately. And also adds validation to her story, because again, remember, if we're general, people don't know whether to believe you or not. No matter how genuine you are, they don't actually know if they can believe you. But when you add details, it helps people trust you. So again, she starts sharing her struggles about how she let her fitness fall to the wayside. She had run for so many years, but she was plagued with injuries. So another big pain point. Then she addresses the objection. Super skeptical. Why would she need to pay? She tells the story a lot. She would easily find things on YouTube and Pinterest. So that's her person, is someone who's wanting to go on Pinterest and YouTube to look for videos. That wasn't me. I was like the workout class person. But when I had kids, I'm not going to do workout classes anymore. At least not me. But so she addresses the objection, and then she talks about what she liked about it. She likes doing the program, checking off the boxes. I relate to that. I love our programs and checking off boxes. She was feeling motivated, that there was other women cheering her on. And she even addresses the income, like only $160 investment. So she does a clear call to action. I have a new group starting on Monday. I'm looking to help and keep 5 women accountable and motivated. I'll help you pick a program, give you guidance, and again, I don't know what the end of the call to action was, but that was a very clear call to action of who she's looking for, when the group starts, and she probably ended it with how to get in touch with her. Let's see the chat. Okay. Frequency of these call to actions. So you're like, yes, I know what I need to do. Now what? So it takes at least 7 or 10. I mean, no one knows. I've heard people say 5. I've heard people say 40. Like, it takes a while for people to make a decision. So my favorite example is, I know it's all the same. Like, when you go to Nordstrom.com and you go click on a purse, then that freaking purse, you don't buy the purse the first time. At least I don't. I look at it. Actually, I might never buy it. I'm gonna be the person that looks at it, and then they start sending you ads, right? So then you're on Facebook, and all of a sudden you originally clicked on it on Google.com. Went to Nordstrom. Then you're on Facebook, and then then you see the freaking same purse. The same exact one is in your ads, and then the same on Instagram. And it takes then you click on it, and then you click out, and you're like, okay, I'm not gonna get it. It's like talking myself out of it, right? But eventually, if you truly believe this purse is going to solve some problem that you have in your life, like maybe they point out that the leather can't get spills on it, and you're like, oh, that's why I need it. I need it because, my kids aren't going to be able to ruin this purse. Then you're like buying it. But you didn't buy it the first time. It took you a while. So don't forget that people need to see you show up over and over and over again. And it might be a month, it might be a year, it might be 3 years. And the good news is, if you keep doing this consistently, you're not waiting around for that one person to come around 3 years later, but your pipeline just gets fuller and fuller. So the point now where I'm 5 years in, I can do a call to action post. I can have people I can do a call to action post, and I could never send a single invite, and I will hit Success Club every month. But that is because I still send invites, you guys, but I have created this flow of people that have been watching me, that I've reached out to, that I have in my network, so that over time it just starts to compound. So what I just see people just getting so scared after doing these call to action posts, and then nothing happens, or they think nothing happens. It's all happening under the surface, and then they give up too soon. So I see it go 2 different ways though with coaches. Is I see people do too many call to actions, where they're inviting every single day and they're not explaining the struggle, they're not telling the story. If you told a story and talked about the struggle or added value in a post, I wouldn't actually care if you did a call to action every day, as long as you had other content in there. But what I end up seeing is people doing many call to actions with no real storytelling or no real struggle, and then they feel discouraged and it looks salesy. And it does look salesy, and then they feel salesy because they are being salesy, and then they go in this downward spiral of, I don't want to feel salesy, and then they quit. So you have to know how it works, and you have to be encouraged. So if say you're doing too many, that's one scenario. The other people I see is the ones who don't do enough, and they do one post and they're really vague about it, and they kind of hide their invite in the thing, and then no one joins them, and then they are like, well, it doesn't work, right? So it has to be somewhere in the middle. So I'd say in the 1 to 2 weeks leading up to your group, you'll want to do a call to action at least 3 to 5 times per week. And then you're also going to want to do private invites. So I just gave you different examples. I'm not going to do a transformation post 5 times in a week. I'm going to do a transformation post. Well, I have an example coming up, I think, of a schedule. You need other content too. I think we all know that it's not just call to action. You want to have other things you're showing about your life and adding value to your customer or your ideal client. And then another thing I want to quickly note is that your story views, if you do that story that I did with the habit one, where there was probably at least 3 workout videos and then the whole story series, I'm sure my story views went down after that, because when your story views will go down if people swipe, because they're like, I don't want to watch this. And you have to remember that it's not about who swiped and said, I don't want to watch this. It's about who stayed and does want to watch it. So instead of getting discouraged about how low your views are after doing a story series like this, either you do want to be cognizant of like, okay, which ones are like people are staying on longer, they're more engaging, right? Because even if someone doesn't want to join me, they might watch through my whole story series because it's at least tells a good story. It's engaging. But if it's too salesy, they're for sure going to swipe. So again, at the end of the day, if you do a too salesy stories, or you're sitting here being like, shoot, that's me, I've been doing all these really salesy stories, don't worry about it. You can regain the trust. You can start doing these things, and it's not the end of the world. People, like, you are a business. Like, I think we sometimes get so like wrapped up in this idea that like we don't sell anything, like we're not in that, we like forget that it's okay to sell things. Like, that's, their businesses out there. Nordstrom's not like embarrassed that they're sending me these freaking 5 million ads about the purse, but you for some reason are, right? So don't get discouraged if you have been doing that. Just work on improving. And again, your story views might go down. Just know that the right people are watching. It happens to me. It's like sometimes it's like in half how many people are like end up watching my stories than who started. Okay, so this is a game plan. You can feel, if you want to take a picture, screenshot it if you're watching the replay. This is just an example of what maybe I would do the week before my challenge group. Is like Monday, I might do a story series like the one I showed you. Tuesday, I would do transformation post. So again, one's in stories, one's in the main feed. I would use, always when you do a transformation, you want to share a struggle. And ideally it's related to the particular transformation you're sharing, because you can share the same transformation over and over again. You can share the same struggle over and over again in a different way. And I've even actually copied and pasted old posts of mine and shared the exact same post. So like, don't like think you have to reinvent new stories all the time. You can tell the same story. I know, I remember I had a Beachbody coach once, and it was like, he just told his same story. I don't know, or what's her girl's name? Katie Moore. If you go to her Instagram account, she has the same picture of herself pulling, not being able to button her pants in like half of her reels. It's the same picture. And you know why? Because that picture works. It connects with people and they see that, and she tells it in a different way. She tells her transformation story over and over and over and over again. And do you think there's people that unfollow her? For sure. But do you think that she's helping lots of people who need to lose 75 pounds like she did? Yes. So don't be afraid to share the same story over and over again, because you never know who's watching or who's reading. Okay. Wednesday, for example, you could talk to the camera in stories. If you're super afraid of this, you have to get over it. But I do recommend that if you're going to be afraid to talk in stories, that you start by sharing something not related to the business as a warm up. So like, get out your camera. You know, you can record it in the story, or you could record it out of the story and upload it and like put on your favorite filter, and then just talk about something else, like what something's going on with your kids, or something that's going on with something else that you talk about on your social media, and talk about that first, so you can kind of get over that fear of like, what my people are hearing my voice. And I know it can be scary at first when you do talk to stories, but when you talk in stories, again, we're building trust, because people trust you when they see you talk and they see who you really are, and they see those little like the stutter or the personality, or they see your energy, or they see your excitement. It comes across in video, and you have to be talking in your stories. So talking in your stories, you could even do something like sharing just about like how you're getting together your meal plan, and how it's so nice that there's these meal plans that are already created, because you used to really struggle with coming up with a weekly meal plan that fit in with your nutrition plan or something like that. And then you could say like a call to action with a poll: do you struggle to come up with meal plans? And then that's like kind of a call to action, but it's more of like a conversation starter. So then you can message those people that took your poll, and then you guys could start talking. You could give them a tip, and then you could invite them to your group. So testimonials on Thursdays is a great thing. Again, you can screenshot conversations you've had with your challengers. It's up to you if you want to ask for their permission. If I knock out their last name and their last name, and I share without asking their permission, but it's up to you and how you feel about it. If I'm doing like an official testimonial where I've emailed a customer, I will ask them if it's okay, and I've never had anyone say no. and again, this is something you could go back and like survey the people you already have had in your group. But you could even like, I'll do like a Friday post where it's like successes and struggles in my challenge group. And if someone has a success in there, I can screenshot it and share it. So Friday you could add value and then do a call to action. So it like share something like a recipe, a tip. That's kind of like what I was talking about earlier on the stories, where you're sharing something that's working for you and then transition it into a call to action. And then Saturday or Sunday, as you're prepping for the group, you could share like, hey, oh my gosh, I just got the group set up. This many people have joined, like creating FOMO while you're setting up the group. So those are all ideas. Like if you're new and you're like, this is too many, like pick 3. If you do 3, that's way better than 0, right? I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions? I think at the end of the day, as I've said, it just comes down to you knowing your personal story and struggles, showing up consistently, and sharing that. Do you have any questions? When does your guys' next group start? And the same principles go for coaching invites. Pretty much the exact same. You can like go through the same formula for that leading up to your info session. It's recorded. Yes, I think. Yeah, it's recording.
Can I ask a question? This is Eunice. As it relates to trying to balance the customer and the coaching, do you have a strategy as to like when you do the coach sort of stories and call to actions, and then when you do customer, do you do them at the same time? Like what do you typically do?
I usually do my challenge group the second Monday of the month, and then I do our info session like 2 weeks later, so that I have like 2 weeks of challenge group invites and call to actions, and then 2 weeks of coaching. But I do, if you're wanting to grow, if you are building a team and you want it, I mean, you should be talking about coaching at least once a week or you should be talking about coaching like many times a week in your stories as like more of a, like they call it a jab, or like you're mentioning it, but you're not doing the call to action. It really depends on your goals. But for the longest time in my business, I structured it 2 weeks of challenge group, 2 weeks coaching. And then I would kind of shift through that.
Okay, that's very helpful. So kind of like dripping the coaching all the time, but focusing on, 2 weeks challenge groups, 2 weeks the coaching info sessions type.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Thank you, Katie.
When people ask for information, what are you sending them? Like I send YouTube videos, just would be interested what you're like, when they're asking for information.
So if someone wants information, I message them and I'll say like, much for, I'm so excited to get you information. What's your email address? And then I'll ask them questions ideally to like get to know what their struggle is, or like why they want to join. Sometimes I'll even say like, what interests you about the group, or like basically I try to get to figure out what is their pain point, and then you can connect in just saying like, oh, well, I really think that you're going to really like the accountability in this group because a lot of the other women also struggle with after dinner snacking, and we can hold each other. I don't know, you like connect it back to their struggle. And then I'll send them an email, and I just have email templates that I create for all my, like when I have a new group, I'll just update depending on what it is. So like I'll have for like 645, I have an email template, and it does include the promo video in the email, so they can watch it and then decide if they want to do that one.
Thank you. I think that's where I'm missing the boat. Like I'm just sending the YouTube videos, but I'm not asking them enough questions about their pain points.
Yeah, because again, like if you're asking them questions, you're getting to know your potential customers better too. And then when you go back to follow up with them, if they fall off, you always say like, hey, I don't know if you ever figured out, how to get consistent with your workouts, because you told me that you were struggling with that, is now a better time to join a group. And then you could like bring it back around if you wrote it down. So Monica said she sends 4 questions. Which 4 questions do you send? The same every time?
Sorry, I was grabbing the copy paste, but I just dropped it.
Okay, so can I get it? I love that. Can I ask you a few questions to get to know you better, to guide you? Here we go. What's your current fitness level? What's your biggest struggle? What's your goal? Have you completed any Beachbody programs before or tried Shakeology? So you can ask that, and that gets conversations going.
Yeah, that gives you the ammunition also for any objection. Like, that's what I found. So I asked that before I even send the third-party tool. And the third-party tool is always going to be the All Access Challenge Pack video, because that's what I always get out there and help somebody with. But it helps me with ammunition on what they need from me.
Are you talking about the one that's like the woman with the Shakeology bags is the, and then she
yeah, the girl that's, I think now it's called a Total Solution.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It used to be called the All Access. Now it's called a Total Solution.
Yes. I would say for someone, that's not the tool I use as much because I attract runners and they're more wanting like performance strength based. But I do encourage, like I know Shayla on my team, who her client is more of someone who needs, like, is weight loss focused, needs the Total Solution. I have her, like, she sends that video, because that doesn't give them a specific program. It kind of just explains how they're going to be supported and all the tools they're going to get and what it's going to do for them.
Yeah, I have a script for the next thing leading into the video. I'll drop it now, but I'm basically telling them that. I'm like, listen, for everything you shared, like, I want to give you a visual of the tools. And that's the language I use so that they see the tools that they're getting with their pack.
And then Monica, do you lead them to email at all, or do you just set up the cart from the conversation there?
So honestly, I lead straight into getting their email and dropping them the link. But I do believe I have a gap in my business that I should be collecting emails better so that I could do exactly what you said, which I don't do. And it, again, is a big gap of every time I have a new challenge or anything, even newsletters, I should be sending them out and I am not. So thank you for that reminder that I need to get on that.
Yeah, it's nice to get. I also feel like if I ask for their email address first, I'm acknowledging that I'm going to send them information, which is why they reached out, versus like immediately being like, okay, let me ask you. I ask them questions too, but I feel like it's like, they're like, okay, the information's coming via the email. Because I think some people are like, I just want to see like how much it costs. They think, you know, even though they once you start talking to them, they realize why they need it. But some people are more likely just to skim your email and be like, oh, you know, no. So the conversation helps you get out, like helps them in the conversation decide they're going to do it no matter what your email says.
I have another question for the challenge groups. Are you creating new challenge groups every single month? Or are you, when people, you know, respond to your call to action, they decide, yes, I want to do it. Are you bringing them into the same challenge group?
I create new challenge groups every month. I just feel like it creates excitement for the new, like anyone to restart a fresh day. I've gone back and forth though, because I do have this group of like, you know, people that are just kind of always with me. And with bod groups, I think it'd be easier probably just to have an ongoing one, but I just do a new one. Okay, so she just shared the other part of her script in the comments. I'm putting it in a note too to share. Monica, when you post the replay, maybe you should share those too. All right, any other questions? One thing I didn't mention, I guess, is that like, sometimes we like, don't forget, just because you don't have like this special niche of runners like I do or whatever, that you don't have people that you can help and that you're not unique and that you can't help someone in the same place as you. I know one of my newer diamonds, Adriana, she's been coaching for 3 years, and she, like, I've seen so much growth in her figuring out who she helps. And she told me recently, like, she helps mom. It's not just she helps moms. She helps moms who don't give themselves time for themselves. Right. So that's like a totally different mom than my runner niche moms who love to run and give themselves that time, but they might not give themselves strength training time. So by telling your story and having conversations with people, authentically, you're going to figure out who is your person that you're helping. Yeah, see, I feel like people resonate. Shannon resonated with that, but with all different parts. So if you don't know your story, take some time to dig into it and then just start sharing it and see what's connecting with people and what feels good to you. All right.
You know, that like that's so on point, Nicole, because for a while I struggled with that. Like, I'm just a mom, right? Like every other mom. And then I started telling more in detail, like my diastasis recti story, which again, there's a lot of moms who deal with that out there. But then it was this thing of being like embarrassed of showing my body close to children and how I overcame that. And I feel like that's the number one, when someone finally reaches out and says, I need help, like I'm just tired of hiding my body or feeling ashamed. Like that's always like a key phrase I hear, you know, when someone finally reaches out and is ready. So I think that that was like the niche that I realized I was tackling without, you know, just with telling my story is that. So I think that goes back to the piece of you talking about vulnerability and really, I feel like really taking the time to know what your story is, like what led you here and why are you so passionate about being here and continuing your journey and helping others find what you have found. Like it's the small little details that really will go a long way in the storytelling in that aspect. And you nailed it, Nicole, with this training, like totally.
Yeah. I agree. The details help you figure out who's your mom or who's your person. Not doesn't have to be, you don't have to be moms, but I know that a lot of us are. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. I think that's it. I'm just going to log off, Monica, since you're driving. Oh, I think you have to end the meeting.
Yes, thank you. It's birthday day with my daughter, so I'm running around. But thank you so much, Nicole. This was awesome, gold. And as soon as I'm back at home in front of the computer, I will drop the recording and all of the scripts. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.